Well, make no mistake about it, the United States and Israel, and by the way, I'm going to throw the UK into this mix as well. They often get left out, but they are getting ready for a large-scale war with Iran. According to the Washington Post, and Armin posted this today, Washington Post, the U.S. has set 4 conditions for an agreement with Iran. Number 1, complete stop of uranium enrichment program. 2, restrictions on long-range missiles. End of all support for resistance groups in the region. Direct and unmediated talks with the United States. Now, I thought we had destroyed all of their nuclear enrichment programs.
We did a victory lap.
We were told this. This came right out of Sean Hannity's mouth after he just got off the phone with President Trump, remember?
I just spoke to the President of the United States. I have some new information and breaking details to share about tonight's what is historic air campaign. Now, tonight, Iran's nuclear ambitions, they are officially dead. It appears the United States just completely obliterated Iran's top secret Fordow nuclear facility with 6.
Yeah, so 6 bunker-busting bombs. It's eliminated. It's set back 30 years, but now suddenly it's back again, and we need to go to war with them again. Colonel Douglas Macgregor is warning us all about what's coming and the impending maybe larger scale war that we are about to see. Right from the get-go, Colonel, you've been saying we are heading into phase 2. Phase 2 will happen. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. How soon do you think we're going to hit that point?
I think it's coming sooner rather than later. I think Glenn Greenwald is right. It's a matter of weeks, could even be days. But we're moving a lot of equipment into the region right now. Aircraft, refueling assets, ships. We've rebalanced the missile inventories in the region. So we're very close to being ready. By the way, I assume you're aware of what's happened with the French seizure of a Russian tanker. Are you not?
Yes, but why don't you explain it to us?
Well, I think this is very important because you can't view what happens in Ukraine and what's happening in the Middle East as entirely separate. I think there's a great deal of connectivity. The French decided to board a Russian tanker at sea. That's, of course, illegal. You can't just board a ship with your national armed forces. French military did it. And Macron has said, well, this is to disrupt the Russian business model. We disrupt it by holding on to this tanker full of oil for 2 weeks or so. Then we'll let it go again. And ultimately, as a result, this will harm Russia. Well, frankly speaking, under international law, this is an act of war against Russia. At the same time, the Estonian government is saying that the waterway that comes out of St. Petersburg and empties into the Baltic is now part of their national waters. Actually, it's an international channel that allows Russian vessels to come out of St. Petersburg and move into the Baltic. And they're talking about effectively blockading the Russians inside St. Petersburg. Now, I don't know how they plan to proceed or what they want to use to do that. But the juxtaposition of the two together right now is very dangerous. I don't expect the Russians or President Putin to react instantly with a declaration of war. I'm sure they're putting together their response. But the fact that this is happening strengthens, believe it or not, the case for war in the Middle East. Because one of the things strategically that the neocons want to do, and they're the ones controlling your government, and that includes the Israel lobby, is to tie down as much Russian military power as they can while they proceed in the Middle East against Iran. So the fact that this has happened now indicates to me that they're much closer to opening the campaign against Iran than we think.
I asked Glenn Greenwald this question a few minutes ago on the show. I'll ask you the same question. Do you see striking similarities to what we saw in the run-up to the first phase of this war? The media propaganda, the pro-Israel posts from influencers we know as part of this paid campaign. Do you see, from a military perspective, whether it's tankers arriving in Doha, Qatar, all of that, do you see similarities there?
Yeah, there's similarities. The only thing I'd point out, though, and you know this better than I do, is I don't think the influencers for Israel are doing very well. I know that they're being paid something in the neighborhood of $7,000 a pop to put out pro-Israeli statements and observations. But I think public opinion in the United States has turned decisively against Israel. Now, that doesn't make any difference in the short run because the American people can't pay the people on the Hill or in the White House enough money to derail the pro-Israel bent. But nevertheless, the American people have turned away from it. And even though the members of the House and the Senate are handsomely rewarded financially for their support of Israel, even they have to take notice of what the American people think. So I think that's another reason why Mr. Netanyahu came to visit. It was to check signals, make sure everything was ready, make sure everybody understands what has to happen. He issued his directives, not only to President Trump, but also, I'm told, to some cabinet members. So they're ready to go, and I think they want to get this done, if you want to use that terminology, as quickly as possible before they lose control of events in Washington, because the American people are fed up, I think.
Let me ask you something. How much time do you spend every day on a web browser? How much time do you spend clicking around online, searching, scrolling, typing, endless tabs? It's a lot, right? Well, there's a new AI web browser from Perplexity called Comet that is completely changing the way you're able to interact with your browser. Using Comet feels like having a personal assistant living in your web browser that can actually do things for you across the internet. Yes, actually do things, not just give you answers. You can ask Comet to handle tasks for you, and it literally clicks, types, searches, and scrolls just like you would to get things done for you in the background while you go about your day. Comet can actually shop for you. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't tell my daughter about this. It can make reservations for you. It can book travel for you. It can summarize articles or videos, send emails, schedule meetings, and a lot more to make your life easier. Let me show you how it works. So, for example, you could type or say, find a great Mexican restaurant in Austin next Wednesday at a time that fits my calendar. Book it, then send a calendar invite and an email to my colleague, John, with the details. Pretty cool, right? So download Perplexity's new AI web browser called Comet today by heading to pplx.ia/redacted and let your browser work for you. Plus, right now, when you download Comet, you get a month of Rumble Premium for free. Again, that's pplx.ia/redacted. Go now and take back your time online.
On the eve of a government shutdown, the United States announced a $123 million contract to replace the bunker busters that we dropped on Iran. So everyone else is going to go without a paycheck this week, but Boeing is going to get this replacement. Now, something that Glenn Greenwald said a little bit ago on our show was that this pause in the war was for both sides to restock because Israel was low on ammo, the United States was low on ammo. You have said that if the United States was attacked, you've said on this show, we have, I don't know, weeks worth of defense, and then that's it. And so obviously this money laundering scheme is more important than any peace talks or any will of the American people, don't you think?
Well, I think that's true. I mean, the peace talks was always a smokescreen. It was never serious. There's no chance for that 21-point plan to be accepted by anybody, neither the Israelis nor the Palestinians. For the Palestinians, it's sort of willing subjugation to Israeli Jewish dominance in perpetuity. They're not going to sign up for that. And Mr. Netanyahu wants blood. He wants the complete annihilation of the Palestinians, as do his supporters. So there will be no peace settlement. This is you get one of two outcomes ultimately. You either get Israel or you get Palestine. If there's a Palestine, there is no longer an Israel. If you get Israel out of this terrible war that we're about to embark on, there is no Palestine. It's that simple. But I think that what is happening right now with Russia is very important because in people's minds in Washington, this is diverting Russian attention away from the Middle East. Now, you also brought something else up. You said, what are the similarities? There are some differences this time, I'm told. And that is, we're going to see a lot more gravity bombs. That is, bombs that may have the precision kits on them, but you're talking about bombs that have to be delivered by fighter bombers, various kinds of aircraft at much closer to Iranian air defenses than in the past. We also are going to rely, I'm told, very heavily on old Tomahawk missiles. In other words, missiles that have been in the inventory for some time. And then we will dip into the precious reserves that we have involving SM-6 Standard missiles, the THAAD missile, and other more rare commodities, but extraordinarily valuable and important. So it's not exactly the same because we cannot bring everything to this that we did the last time.
I mean, last time it lasted whatever it was, 12 days. People went back to their corners, got refilled. They got, you had Mickey there cutting the eyes and getting everything kind of set up like in Rocky. We're all good to go. And now we're back again. I mean, are we talking like a devastation here? Or are we talking like another 12-day sort of pinprick and then we all go back and we all go back to this theater?
That depends heavily, I would say, on Iran's response. Last time, believe it or not, the Iranians exercised a lot of restraint. If they exercise restraint this time around, I'd be surprised. I rather suspect that they will employ whatever they've got. My great concern is, as the damage is sustained in Israel, the demand for the use of a nuclear weapon against Iran will be enormous. The other possibility is that this time Egypt, the Turks, may not sit this out. There is the outside possibility, the Egyptians in particular, may decide that they can no longer take the hit. They've got to fight. The Turks have been pushed to the edge. Erdogan wants to play both sides to the middle. He's done that very well. But if you listen carefully to the statements he's made recently, it sounds as though the Turks are ready to finally play the cards and show us what they hold. We'll see. Remember, you've got this Saudi-Paki alliance that was created. And all of these states right now have the backing of China. And when I say backing, I'm talking about not just military assistance, but also financial. That's very important to the Turks, very important to the Egyptians. And of course, the Saudis and the Pakis are very interested in that financial backing as well. But the Pakistanis bring nuclear weapons technology to the fight. And the Pakistanis have made it very clear that their bomb is an Islamic bomb. In other words, if their brothers in the Middle East need the weapon, they will have it.
You worked in the Pentagon. You worked in the Pentagon under President Trump. Tucker Carlson, friend of the show, Tucker Carlson, last night dropped this little nugget about IDF soldiers basically haranguing our Pentagon staff in the Pentagon. I want to play this clip and get your response to it. Watch.
During the 12-day war, such as it was with Iran, the U.S. and Israel versus Iran, bombing on all sides, during that short conflict, IDF officers in the Pentagon, foreign military officers in the Pentagon, and by the way, they're not the only foreign military officers in the Pentagon, to be clear. There are NATO officers, they're from other countries, British, but there are a bunch of Israeli Defense Force officers in the Pentagon that week. And during that week, ask anyone who works at the Pentagon, they enraged American Pentagon staff by just barging into meetings, giving orders, making demands, and nobody did anything about it. How can a foreign military officer barge into military headquarters, even if invited, but barge into a meeting and start demanding, we want this, we want that, you need to get on this? Huh? The more you allow that kind of deeply unhealthy behavior, the more you're going to get. And that's exactly what has happened.
Colonel, what do you make of that? Did you ever experience that?
I'm sure it's true. I haven't experienced exactly what he described, but I can tell you that when I was
People
still
don't boss you around. That's why I wouldn't try.
Well, but I was still on active duty. I had to take a trip down to the Naval Warfare Center, and people down there were complaining about the access that Israelis had. They were allowed to see everything, go anywhere, do whatever they wanted. And later on, after I got out of the service and I walked through the Joint Staff area, I was surprised to see large numbers of desks with little Israeli flags on them. And this was either an American citizen with Israeli citizenship as well, or perhaps just Israeli enthusiasts in the group. I don't know. I was surprised to see that. I had not seen that in the past. It's very rare that you see a foreign flag in the Pentagon, unless it's a liaison office where you have somebody stationed from Britain or Australia or somewhere else. So I'm afraid he's probably right. And I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better because, to be perfectly blunt with you, the Israelis and Mr. Netanyahu are in charge. That's your government.
Yeah, 100%. Colonel Douglas Macgregor, always great to see you. Saying weeks, not months, likely for this next conflict. Thank you for warning all of us that it's coming. As always, Colonel, great to see you.
Good to see you both. Bye-bye.